Hello, welcome back to another episode of Bird Brain Q&A. I think this is episode 9, and I am very excited because today I am joined by Jill Dugan. You all might remember Jill. Jill is our producer and has appeared in previous episodes, most notably telling you what to do when a bird poops on you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to step in and be the question asker for this episode. I'm happy to be here to talk about birds.
All right, so today we are talking about the sounds that birds make. And as I said in the last episode, I study bird sounds, so this is fun for me.
All right, well, let's jump in with the first question. This one is from Renee. What is happening with all the noisy birds in the morning?
Birds are noisy in the morning, aren't they? If you're an early riser, you probably know this, right? You wake up to the birds. And if you're not an early riser, you might also know this because they are annoyingly waking you up early in the morning. A lot of birds have local territories that they defend, and each night you never know what might happen. It's a dangerous time for a bird at night. And so every morning, if they're still there and they've still got the energy to defend that territory, they want to tell everybody about it. So essentially, what we think is happening is that all the birds wake up in the morning and say, I am still here. This is still my space. And when they do that, we call this the dawn chorus.
The dawn chorus. That's beautiful. It's so nice. I just assumed they were happy to be greeting another day.
They're joyful, they're happy. It's morning, let's celebrate, but also stay out of my space.
So, Lauren, have you ever gotten up early to listen to the entire dawn chorus from beginning to end? And like, what time does it start and how long does it go?
It varies depending on where you are, but it can last a while. And yeah, it's actually a wonderful thing to do wherever you are, to wake up really early and go out and just sit in one place before any birds start singing when it's still dark and wait, and you'll hear different species come in at different times. So the early birds start singing first. Maybe you get robins singing early, and then you get some other species joining in. You get wrens adding their voices. You get blackbirds adding their voices. And the timing of it is really beautiful because you can see how different species come in one by one. And I taught a class when I was a graduate student. I taught a class where we made the undergraduate students come out and listen to the dawn chorus in Berkeley, California, and they had to be there at 5 a.m. and they all thought this was crazy and they hated it. And they said, why am I showing up for a field trip at 5 a.m.? But at the end of that field trip, after sitting and listening to that beautiful chorus kind of appear around them, they all absolutely thought it was worth it. They loved it.
Oh, that's awesome. It's great to force them into doing something that they then figure out is awesome and they're glad they did it.
Yeah. So if you're ever up early, if you're jet lagged, just go sit outside and listen to the dawn chorus develop around you. It's wonderful.
Okay, our next question is from Adam. Adam asks, what are the top 5 bird songs a backyard gardener should recognize?
I love this question. I think this is a great question because it combines birds and your own garden. And I thought about this question. I knew this question was coming. And so I thought to myself, what are the top 5 songs a backyard gardener should know? And I tried to think about songs and birds that are common across the whole United States so everybody could relate to them. And I tried to think about birds that use your garden or your outdoor space in different ways. So here's what I came up with. I think the first one that I'm going to recommend is an American goldfinch, which is a beautiful little yellow and black and brown bird. And they are common across the United States, in different parts of the United States in winter versus summer. But they love to forage on backyard flowers. And in particular, they love sunflowers. So if you are a backyard gardener and you have sunflowers, you are likely to have American goldfinches eating from them. And it's just so beautiful to see this black and yellow bird on a black and yellow flower in this way. And so if you're listening for this and you want to know the song, the easiest thing to listen for is their call. As they fly through the air, they have this kind of bounding flight. They go up and down and they say, potato chip, potato chip.
Wow, I'm definitely not familiar with that one. I don't even know if I've ever seen an American goldfinch, so maybe I'll have to plant some sunflowers this summer. But potato chip?
Potato chip. That's what they say. It's great. And they also have a really twittery, beautiful, longer song that is a much longer, kind of light, twittery, delightful thing. But the potato chip is most recognizable. And if you're looking for them in your yard, they will come to bird feeders as well. So put some sunflower seeds in your bird feeder and you might get them.
All right. All right. I will try that.
Yeah. And they love thistle in a bird feeder also. They love thistle.
Thistle, really? I've always wondered why they put that in bird seed. So that's good to know. All right. All right. So that was your number one. What's your number two?
My number two is an American robin, which I think many people know. It's a really common bird, of course, across the whole United States. And that bird will tell you if you have worms in your garden because they are insect eaters and they spend a lot of time pulling up worms. So if you have robins, you probably have worms, which is a good thing for most gardeners. And an American robin, if you're listening for it, they sing a song that sounds sort of like cheerily, cheer up, cheerily, cheerily, cheer up.
Okay, so those were your first two. What is your third recommendation for backyard gardeners to recognize a bird song?
Number three, I'm going to say is the house wren, which is another very common species across the United States. They nest in cavities. If you have a nest box in your backyard with a small hole in it, you might get house wrens, and they have beautiful songs. They like kind of thick, dense vegetation. They'll hide in that vegetation, but then they'll pop up, or even without popping up, they will sing these wonderful kind of burbling, bubbling, warbly songs that I really love to listen to. And you might have a hard time seeing them because they're not always super obvious visually, but you can always hear them when they're in your yard.
Are those the little like grayish brown ones? I have a zillion of those in my yard, and they definitely nest in my little birdhouse that I have, and they make a mess of my bird feeder. But they do have a really nice song. They're always a part of my dawn chorus.
Yeah, it might. I'm wondering, they usually don't appear in big swarms because most of the time house wrens live just as a pair, a male and a female, and they defend a territory. So they are a big part of that dawn chorus. They absolutely sing in the morning. But you don't usually get more than two of them at a time. So I'm wondering if you're seeing house wrens or maybe you're seeing house finches, which are also common, and they come in bigger flocks and they're beautiful. And then there are also house sparrows. There are so many house birds. Why do we call them a house?
Yeah, maybe house sparrows. That does sound right. Okay, sorry, I got us off track there. So we had three. What is your fourth sound that we should be able to recognize as backyard gardeners?
Okay, so the first three I've suggested are songbirds, these little perching birds that have beautiful burbling, warbling songs of various kinds. The last two I'm going to give you are not songbirds. I'm going to say that it's really helpful and wonderful to know the sound of a mourning dove, which again is found all across the United States. They're very common and they make these beautiful low-pitched kind of cooing sounds, you know, coo, coo, coo. And sometimes you can even mistake it for an owl. It sounds a little bit owl-like, but if you know that sound, you know that you have mourning doves, and that's just a beautiful bird to have in your yard. And then the last one I'm going to suggest is actually a hawk. In backyards across America, you do sometimes find raptors. If you have a bird feeder, you got to watch out because all those goldfinches sitting on your bird feeder might be the target for a Cooper's hawk that lives near you. And knowing the sound of a Cooper's hawk, I think, is really kind of fun because we don't often think about hawks living in our yards, but they do. And a Cooper's hawk is really common. They make these kind of nasal, almost kind of rusty calls of various types. And if you know it, it's fun to hear it up there. If you hear that sound, keep an eye on your bird feeder and watch the birds scatter.
Can you do an impersonation of that one?
Oh my gosh. No, that one's hard. I can do some of the others, but I can't do a Cooper's hawk. But I bet we can find a recording of it. So I'm going to let our wonderful editor clip in a recording of a Cooper's hawk right here.
Okay, so that's what that one sounds like. Okay, well, those were really interesting answers. It was a little more diverse than I was expecting. A couple surprises. You didn't include the cardinal, which is one of the birds I can always recognize in my backyard, but maybe that's because are they not all the way across the United States?
Yeah, they have wonderful songs, but I didn't pick them for that reason because you don't find them everywhere. Where I live in Colorado, I don't get cardinals.
Yeah, I'm really glad I have cardinals. I have a pair of cardinals that have lived here for a few years, so I keep track of them. All right, next up, we have a question from Sarah. She asks, how easy is it to tell individual birds apart by their sounds?
Not easy for us. I am very bad at that. I can tell different species apart by their sounds, but I can't listen to a singing chickadee and know, oh, yeah, that's Susan over there and that's Henry over there. No, but the birds can do it. So if you're a bird listening to members of your own species, it's probably reasonably easy. We've done, or people have done lots of research experiments where they have played the sounds of different individual birds and they see that their neighbors react to them appropriately in ways that suggest that they know, oh yeah, that's Bob over there and that's Susan over there. They can tell for sure. Sometimes people can tell if I know, like there are a few species in which they have really distinctive sounds or song types. And occasionally, if you get to know different birds really well, you can tell individuals apart by ear. But it's pretty hard for humans.
Yeah, first I thought the question was asking, like, can birds tell like a sparrow sound from a robin sound? But now I'm realizing they're just saying, oh, can they tell one robin from the next robin? So I guess naturally, like humans, they all have their own individual personalities and voices.
Yeah, they do. I mean, just like I can recognize your voice or I can recognize the voice of my friend when they call me on the phone, birds can do that too. And it does seem to be a sort of species specific thing because obviously I can't recognize the different voices of different cardinals, but they can.
All right, super interesting. Let's move on to this question from AE. She says, I love birds with weird calls. Yellow-headed blackbirds, the mechanical sounding tui bird from New Zealand, etc. Is there a ratio of more melodious birds to those that are not when considering a community, like 10 sweet-songed birds to 2 metal band sounding birds?
This is such an interesting question. AE has obviously been thinking deeply and listening very closely to all the birds out there because some of the birds that AE mentions here do have just incredible sounds. So once again, I think we should take a moment and allow all of our listeners to understand what the sound of a tui is, don't you?
I think we should. Let's put those in here.
Pretty funky, huh?
That's great.
And a yellow-headed blackbird.
That's cool.
They do not sound like your sweet robin, right? They don't say cheerly, cheer up. They don't have these beautiful sounds. And I love that AE is thinking about this like different parts of a symphony, right? You got your bass instruments and you got your flutes and then you have your weird, I don't even know what, your like synthesizers coming in, making these other sounds.
Right? It takes all types. It's a big community of a variety of different people and personalities and skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes all kinds. Yeah. And the real question though is do they somehow organize themselves according to sounds and like you can't have a group of all of the weird sounding birds together. You have to have a mixture. And I don't think that they consciously would do this or think about it. And I'm not sure how it ends up that you do have a mix of sounds, but it does seem to be that across the dawn chorus, when you have something like, 15 species singing at the same time, they do kind of make space for each other. They make space in time, so they will wait for another species to finish singing before they start. And then they also make a little space in audio frequency. So they sound different. The birds seem to shift their vocalizations to sound a little bit different from all the other birds that are singing in the same place as them so that they can still be heard, which is cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Wow. And let's not forget the second part of this question. Like, what is the ratio from like how many sweet sounding birds are there to like heavy metal band birds in any given community?
I'm going to guess that that varies by location, by community. I don't think that there's any hard and fast kind of rule about this in nature. It definitely is true that there are more of the sweet sounding birds in general in the world. So probably most of the time when you have a community, you're going to have more of those kind of melodious type birds and a good number of those low-pitched dove-like cooing birds, and then every now and then one really weird sound like a bellbird.
So what you're saying is that AE was pretty correct in her estimate of like for every 10 pretty happy sounding bird, there's like two outliers who bring some weirdness to the group.
I think that's a great hypothesis. Somebody should go out and test this because I don't think anybody has ever actually quantified it.
Yep, yep. Another research project idea for somebody. I mean, we're just giving them away here. And our last question of the day is from Jimena. She asks, do birds change the way they vocalize in different situations the way humans do?
They sure do. Yeah. And if you think about humans changing the way they vocalize, if a human is talking to their friend versus a small child, they talk pretty differently, right? You say, "Hey, how's it going?" versus, "Oh, how are you today?" We change our voices. We do all of these things. Birds do that too. They exactly just like humans in that same analogy, when they talk to chicks and even when they vocalize towards eggs, make some changes to the way that they sing, seems to indicate that they're communicating with those young, which is pretty cool.
It's adorable.
Yeah, I know. They talk to their babies like we do. Um, they also change the way that they sound if they're in a fight versus more of a just friendly interaction. So just like humans, you always picture like John Wayne walks into the bar, and if he's feeling aggressive, he'll have his voice really low pitched and be like, "Don't mess with me." Birds do that too. When they're in a fight, if they get challenged by an intruder, they drop the pitch of their vocalizations and they make them more kind of harsh sounding, more growly, and that seems to be aggressive.
Yeah, fascinating. I mean, that makes perfect sense. It's what we do, so why wouldn't it be what they do? Um, do they make different sounds when they're in danger?
Yeah, they do. They indicate danger in a range of different ways. So they have special calls that they use to indicate danger. And there are some species that even can modify those special calls in really kind of subtle ways to indicate different levels of danger. So, for example, chickadees. Here's a species that's common across the United States, the black-capped chickadee, at least in the northern part of the country. And they say their name. They say chickadee dee dee dee, which is one of their typical calls. And the number of D's they put on the end of it, whether they say chickadee versus chickadee dee 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 dee, indicates the threat level of a predator that might come after them. So if there's a predator that is likely to attack them, they'll add a lot of D's, and that's the warning. Run.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And I mean, easy to remember, the more you hear of that D sound, you know that something's going on up there in the trees.
Yeah. And it's cool too because those D sounds have a little bit of that kind of panicked sound, right? If we're like, ah, D, it has that same kind of noisiness to it.
It's really interesting. And it's interesting how those cues go across different species, like we do the same thing and they do the same thing. I guess it'd be funny to get those cues wrong. Like it'd be a Saturday Night Live skit, where it's John Wayne and he comes into the bar and he looks all fierce and he goes up to the guy and he's like, do you want a piece of this? Do you want to have a fight?
I would love that. And if he was a bird and he did that, he would get beat up.
He'd probably get beaten up as a human too. All right. Well, these have been very interesting topics. Let's look ahead. What are we covering in our 10th episode?
Well, this was great. I love talking about bird sounds. Super fun. Lots of things to cover. I think our next episode might be our last. We are planning a 10 episode run here. And episode 10 is coming up. So episode 10 is going to be really fun because it's all of the random bizarre questions that are left over that didn't really fit with any other theme.
Yep, it's going to be a fun variety of questions that didn't fit anywhere else. So if you have a question that you are worried that, doesn't fit into any normal topic, then now is the time. I'm going to put the email address down here. So make sure you send us your questions, however bird-brained they are. And maybe we can stump Lauryn. We have yet to stump her. So send us some questions that'll get her going.
I might have been stumped a time or two. I just, managed to talk right past it. No, I love it. It's so fun to think about these bizarre questions because it gets my brain working in all sorts of new ways and it makes me think about birds in ways that I hadn't before. And that's just really exciting to me. So that's awesome. Yeah, send your questions and we'll see you next time.